Okay, so in this video, we're going to be looking at the basics, the getting started of MovingBox 3. So you'll notice when you first add MovingBox to the page, you will initially get two slides. And you will notice there's a blue button. This blue button, when you click on it, you'll be able to add a bunch of more features. Now, in this video, I'm not going to be going through all of these things. You might see a couple things here and there, but I won't be diving into the details of each of these individual slides here. Okay. Now, obviously, we can add in our slide content. So let's just go ahead and add a little bit of content for us here. So here you'll notice I've used some stacks from my free starter pack just to kind of build out a little layout per slide. We just have a simple little header as well as some columns with a couple images just to add a little bit of interest. Now, there are a couple other slides that ship with MovingBox. The default slide stack allows you to add whatever stack that you want inside, right? So basically you could just take any stack you want, drag it in and build whatever layout that you'd like. Now, we also have an image slide, and this allows you to, funny enough, add an image. So let's go ahead and add an image to this slide. And there we go. We just simply drag and drop. There's also warehouse available. You can add an alt tag such as, MovingBox 3. Okay. Now you can also add a caption. We're not going to dive into all of this right now, but you can add a caption and add some animations to your captions as well, which is super cool. So let's leave that caption on there for now. And next up, we can add a video slide. So just like the images, this allows us to add a video to our slide. So let's go ahead and let me configure this video. And there we have it. I've gone ahead and added the URL to my MP4 file, and I've added a poster image as well and defined all of my sizing. Now, changing the order of the slides is super easy with MovingBox. You simply take your slides and you can just drag and drop them to change the order in which they are. So let's do this. We have our basic, slide with our two images, and then we have an image slide. Then we're going to have another basic slide with our custom layout, and then a video slide. Now, one thing almost every slider is going to have that we kind of need is let's go ahead and add some arrows. I'm going to go ahead and add nav arrows. And I'm not going to tweak many of the settings. I do want to just make the horizontal position the outside edge. Okay. And let's go ahead and see how this looks. So now here we are in preview and we see our custom slide layout, and we click next and we can see our lovely image slide with our animated caption that we got. And then we had our third slide, and then here, lastly, our video. Now, what you might notice is the video actually doesn't play. It would be nice if it played automatically, and we can enable that super easy inside of MovingBox. So here we're going to start changing our first settings here. We're going to go ahead inside MovingBox, and we're going to go down to slide content, and I'm going to click autoplay. And if you're curious, this other one, stretch, what this does is if you have any images that are not potentially large enough to scale to the full width of your MovingBox slider, this will force them to stretch. Okay, so let's go ahead and preview. And we can go next, next, and next. And what we'll notice is now we have autoplay enabled for video, which is really, really cool. Now, next thing I'd like to fix is, if you notice, this slide content here isn't necessarily, it would be nice if it was all centered, right? So by default, it kind of just goes up at the top because that's, it's not as tall as this image, right? But how can we fix that? So let's quickly fix that. We're going to add another stack to this MovingBox instance called slide styles. Now, I'm not going to go into all of this. Here, you can actually add background colors to your slides if you want. You can add margins and paddings. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to check this set aspect ratio. And by default, 16:9, which is the size, luckily, of my video and my image. So I'm going to go ahead and set that. And let's go ahead and preview again. And there we go. We'll see now that all of the content is nicely centered within the slides, and our slider just looks beautiful. All right, so let's dive into some of the other options that we have inside MovingBox 3. Now, as you see here inside edit mode, sometimes when you have a slider with a lot of slides, it can take up a lot of space. So the very first setting here is super convenient and allows us to collapse our slides. This allows us to just basically condense MovingBox so it takes up less space. It will show the first slide and hide the rest. And then it will still show your nav arrows and your slide styles and all that stuff. So by default, MovingBox will show one slide at a time. We can easily configure that through this simple slider that tells us how many slides we want to see at a time. We can also configure the initial slide that it will start on, as well as how many slides do we want to scroll. For example, if I want to show 2 slides at a time, but then also scroll 2 slides at a time, we can see that here. So here I'm displaying 2 slides, and if I click next, it will scroll both slides, and I can see the next 2 slides. And if we were to change that to be slides to scroll of 1, we can go ahead and scroll 1 slide at a time. So as we move down to the settings, let's look at the slide animation. Here you're going to choose between slide and fade. And then if you have slide, you can choose the direction of whether or not you want a vertical or horizontal slider, so your direction of your sliding. Next, you can choose your timing curve. And if you look in the tooltips here, you'll notice that there is a website. So greensock.com/docs/v3/eases. And that will give you a great representation of what all of these look like in terms of the timing curves. Okay. Now here in the timing curve, you'll notice that we have in, out, and out. And the tooltip here kind of explains those. So the out will start fast and finish slow. The in starts slow and finishes fast. And the in out will start and finish slow, but in the middle, it kind of speeds up, right? So think of it as it starts slow and then fast, right? So that's kind of what those timing curves do. Next is our features. Now, a lot of times you're going to want to have autoplay turned on. So this is actually on by default. I did shut this off earlier. But the auto advance basically allows you to auto cycle through your slides. And this is a wait time in milliseconds. So by default, it will wait 4 seconds before animating to the next slide. And then here we have pause on hover. So a lot of times if you have content that you want your users to be able to analyze or consume, you can actually have pause on hover. So when they hover over the slider, the actual animations will be paused. Then we have some controls for touch. So swipe is on by default. We also have drag and drop, as well as touch targets. Touch targets are on mobile. If you tap on left or right of the slider, it'll actually go to previous or next. I guess another nice feature to show off in this basics video would be adding some nav dots. So if we just go ahead and add the nav dots here, we'll see that we can then configure all of our various options for our navigation dots. And as you see here, they do show up at the bottom by default. You can configure those to be in all kinds of different locations within the dot settings. And if you click on the dots, it'll actually navigate to that particular slide as well. And last, but definitely not least, is the new animate options that we have within the MovingBox slides. So here we add the MB3 animate, and let's go ahead and add that to some of our slide content. Okay, so what I've added here is I've made the animations for the MovingBox set to fade. And then what I've done here is on the header, this is going to fade in, down, and it's going to fade out, up, and it's going to delay by 1/4 second. So not much, but it is going to be delayed. Actually, let's make that 1/2 second. Okay. And then these images, they're going to fade in from the sides and fade out from the sides. So there we go. We got our images coming in and the header faded down. We saw that they animated out when the slide changed. And if we go back to that slide, let's go back to that slide. You'll see that those animations happen again. So super easy way to add animations to our slides. This is a really powerful feature inside MovingBox. So I hope you enjoy the MovingBox 3 stack. As you see, it's super powerful. It'll definitely be the most powerful slider that you have inside your stacks library. You can just do so many things with it. I can't wait to see the amazing designs that you make with MovingBox. Now go forth and make your websites great.